Good morning, Dorothy. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. I'm good. I'm actually awake because as I mentioned to you earlier, I had to get up very early this morning to see my son off for the Eugene Marathon. So
Congrats
to
on
him,
the
not to
marathon
me.
camp.
And congrats to me for having woken up for me early. But
Exactly, exactly. And starting with this question, actually, that was one of the questions really I wanted to ask you, Dorothy, is like,
what time I
for
wake up?
yes. So first, when do you wake up? And it's like everybody, they do have that kind of morning routine. It's like, are you the kind of person who just has everything organized, or you just
Oh,
improvise?
no, nothing is organized. I mean, I've been freelance since 2006, I think. And so after a number of years of being freelance, you kind of find your own rhythm. I am not a morning person, so I don't have to be up in the morning if I don't have a son in the marathon. So I would say wake up sort of 8:30ish, maybe roll out of bed around 9:30. I can check the early morning emails from bed, see if there's anything urgent in somebody else's time zone, but then I'm up late. So I do a lot of work with the Middle East and also with Europe. And they're always like, oh, well, we'll try to, make it. But if I do it at midnight, my time, it's morning for people in offices in Europe. And they was, oh, apologies for making you stay up so late. And it's like, it's really not a problem. This is my awake time at midnight, but I can make my own days as long as I'm somewhat mindful of other people's time zones. So I know it must be evening where you are.
It is actually 7 p.m. here in Tunisia,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah. So it's dinner time out there. I hope, there will be no
yeah.
background sounds. It's
Fine if there
Sunday.
is. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't I think that was one of the very few positive things maybe to come out of the pandemic is we did get a look into people's actual lives because they
Lives.
were filmed where they were. And I think we got a little more accepting of, okay, you've got a dog barking or a baby crying or a kid coming in and needing help with something. And that's
Yeah.
just part of your workday. And it can be part of your workday. And you don't have to apologize for it or worry about it or feel embarrassed.
It is. It is.
I saw this wonderful panel discussion I was on, and one of our members, a dad, it's in the middle of whatever he was talking about. I don't know, something important about education or something. And his kid comes in the door behind him, goes, Dad, Dad, I need you. And he was kind of brusque, and he's like, go away, I'm online, Daddy's working. And the kid got more and more agitated, and finally we're like, oh, take care of your child, that's okay. I mean, your son needs you. So the kid comes up and goes, Dad, in Minecraft. At which point the man said, I could see he was holding his laptop. I knew it was going to be a Minecraft question. You all think he's bleeding or he's broken his arm. I knew it was going to be a Minecraft question. So we laughed, and he said, you have to edit that out at the final thing. And we're like, no, we're leaving that. Because that's life. And then even people who are researchers and teachers and academics are still parents and children and brothers and friends and everything.
That's cherry on top. That's what I said. The personal life of professionals, we've
Yeah,
discovered a lot ever
yeah,
since
yeah,
the pandemic. For example, yesterday I had a Toastmasters meeting with my friends, and luckily we had their children with us. And,
yeah,
and and I can't tell you what kind of energy was it there. So it's like everyone was really being himself and herself, and that
yeah.
brings a lot to the table, and especially now what we're doing. And
Well, especially if you're a teacher and you're
yes,
dealing with language. I mean, the human element is 95% of your job. We should be able to recognize that and honor it.
sure, of course. And I've tried myself the freelance experience. So going back to what you said about the flexibility of having that schedule, whenever you want to
Yeah,
wake up, you just wake up. Whenever you want to have your lunch, you just go for it. And if you want to just watch a movie, you just schedule your appointments
yeah.
according to that. And does it really, really has an impact on your life? free and
I think so. I mean, I noticed because obviously I know other freelancers and I'm in groups of freelancers, and I think there's sort of two main types. There's the type who say, schedule it like a job, and I work this many hours a day and then I'm done. The computer is off. I don't work weekends. I'm not going to answer a work email on the weekend. I don't have a weekend. I work 7 days a week, but every day is at my pace. So but one result of that is that I never feel so exhausted that I have to take a day off. You know what I mean? That I don't need a weekend because I'm not, destroyed by my week. So I do work probably 8 hours a day-ish, sometimes more, sometimes less. But how I divide that up depends on the day. And if I want in the middle of the afternoon to meet with two friends in my neighborhood and play some music, we do that. And then I might be working later in the evening, and that's fine. But I can do all those things. I can go grocery shopping when the stores aren't busy, in return for which I might work on a Sunday morning, and that's fine. But it doesn't feel like, oh, I need Sunday to rest, or I need Saturday to rest, or I can't do anything in the evening because that's family time. And my husband also is a freelancer who does different things. So I see him all day, every day. And we don't need to set aside 2 hours for us because it's all there, sort of a natural ebb and flow. And to me, that makes work feel more like part of my life and less like work. That where you have to go off somewhere and do work, and then you come back and have your life. It's like my work and my life are the same, which isn't a bad thing.
Let me tell you, let me be honest about this. One of the things that I like about your profile, your persona as Dorothy Zemach, you're very different, from ELT professionals. Everyone is different, and everyone is allowed to be himself, herself, and themselves, And the thing is that, I noticed that energy that you have, Dorothy, in your workshops, even your husband's energy, as a yogini, and that all of that energy, is really part of Dorothy herself. And the question here, Dorothy, is that do you have any particular, let's say, hobby or something apart from being a cool ELT professional?
Well, is the question, what do I do other than language?
Yes, in your free time, is like family time, me time as Dorothy, or like it's just you just learn something new.
I would think more of it these days goes to music. So I play in a number of groups, just kind of amateur fun stuff. Because I think a good question to ask yourself periodically is, if I had all the money in the world,
what would you do?
Would it change what I'm doing now? And if it would change what you're doing now, that is an indication that something you're doing now isn't quite right. And I think, well, I mean, if I had infinite wealth and the house was paid off and I didn't have to worry about food and utilities, I would still be making books. I would still be giving workshops. I'd still be writing materials. I might spend more time making music, although that also depends on other people and their schedules as well. I'm very lucky that two of the people that I play with are literally across the street from me. So I can walk to their houses in 5 to 6 minutes. So it's easy for us to get together. But even so, 3 people with different lives and schedules, sometimes we have to cancel. But so I play music in a trio once a week. We have a larger group that meets once a week. I've taken up ukulele. There's a little kind of informal group with that as well. And just for fun, it's not going anywhere. I just enjoy it. So when I have free time, especially if it's, during daylight hours and not annoying any neighbors, I would probably reach for a musical instrument and play something or listen to something or something like that. And I last September, I did, I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a workshop for ELT on music, but not not these are, 6 songs you can use in the classroom, not, here's Tom Steiner, and it uses the present continuous. Because people know that already, and a lot of that information is out there. It's not in textbooks because of copyright reasons, but I think in workshops, people are sharing that information. And sort of a side interest of mine is English for teachers, not English for teachers teaching students, but just English for them. Because I think if you teach, especially if you teach at the intermediate or lower levels, your own English world gets narrower and narrower and narrower because you're always teaching a little bit below the level that you speak.
Yes.
So there's nothing at your level. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice if occasionally someone came in and did something exciting about English with no pedagogical implications? It's just, hey, you chose to study this language to the point that you're now teaching it. What do you enjoy about it? What's beautiful? What poems do you like? What stories do you read? What music do you listen to? And so I did I guess you could call it a workshop on American folk music, just to expose people. Here's the music, here's what it means, here are some of our cultural icons, here's the relevance in the past, here's the relevance in the future. And you could play it in your class if you wanted to, but you don't have to. It's for you to fall in love with English again. And I think I would do more of that in the future.
Count me in. I'll be one of the people, interested in this. Apart from this, I'll talk about something else related to arts, but I'll stick to your idea about integrating music more into, let's say, professional development in a friendly sense, not really as a workshop that people had to attend, and with certificates of attendance and with a full agenda. But, I had the idea last year of recording a song of Mary Poppins, of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yes, yeah.
And I like the word so much, and it provides it 1000%. And if ever I'll be doing that again, I see it like with a different perspective. I see it maybe with a group of other teachers who are fond of music, and I'll be just singing the song myself, not just really a playback. And I'll be dressed in according, to the, real
dressing
costumes.
character. Yeah.
I like that so much.
I did know a teacher who chose that song to teach as a performance piece to his class of students because he had the very lowest level. Because that's actually kind of a theme of the song, that if you can pronounce this word, everybody will be so impressed, it doesn't matter what else you do. And so he told his students, everyone knows you're the lowest, but if you can sing this at graduation, everyone will be blown away. And they did, and everyone was blown away, and it was marvelous fun. So teachers would feel that too. But no, it was by National Center in Peru, in Huancayo, that had me come for 3 days of writing workshops. And when we were first negotiating, the curriculum, it took me actually a few emails to understand what he was asking. And he wasn't asking about writing to be taught to students. He wanted writing to be taught to his teachers. And I said, well, but do they have students at this level? And he says, no, it's not for students, it's for them. So for their professional development, if they're writing, journal articles or conference abstracts or something, or just to feel that they're better at English. And I said, oh yeah, we can get into sort of the fine points of semicolons. And he said, yes, that's exactly what I want. Is something that nobody is teaching them. And it doesn't matter, native or non-native speaker, people are equally confused by the finer points of punctuation. But after I came and I did that, I began looking around the workshops that people do and the workshops that people are asking for. There's very little or almost nothing at high level English just for teachers that doesn't have some kind of classroom implication. And where I can, I ask people, could I talk about that? And often people are like, well, I really want to know some vocabulary teaching strategies. And it's like, okay, we can do that too, although it's not as hard to find. I mean, lots of people are giving workshops on that. So I'd like to continue doing a little more for teachers' own level of English, but then also a side thing of teachers' enjoyment of English. You mentioned art, a workshop on, here's some major British, American, and Australian artists and what this reflects about their culture. or oh, look how it's different between a Canadian artist and a British artist, landscapes because of their land. Teaching implications zero, but it makes you feel some kind of connection to the language that you've chosen to study and teach. So
yeah, the same idea, just to elaborate on what you're saying. Now I'm currently pursuing research for my PhD. It's related to the contextual and the cultural use of English. And how the implicator is really different from one culture to the other. It's like how we teach English, but how we apply it to different cultures. And with the English variations, of course, I'm still in that phase of research and really, so really eager to learn more and dig deeper into that research. But it's a great idea. The second point, Dorothy, is I like food. I'm a foodie myself. And part of Ikigai is like, apart from arts, the Ikigai word itself means the purpose of life, and everyone has a different purpose. It can be, you can find it in a profession, you can find it in moments you spend with your family. But I have the idea of integrating how AI, how someone or a teacher can find well-being and peace in doing, life skills. Part of that is just cooking. Maybe how to teach that through workshops, through arts, through yoga, through different aspects. And the longevity secret, because Ikigai has been linked to the Japanese culture and they've been known for living longer than other people, on this planet, simply because they have a different, lifestyle. And I remember asking my friend Jose in the Domingo cruise. He's a kind person. And since I mentioned Jose, hello, Jose, if you'll be watching this. He told me, no, Ikigai Yousra does not have the same meaning as you know it. And the Japanese, they don't really consider that. And we went through that aspect of Ikigai. And I learned how to apply the concept with a different perspective. Is not just, a framework to just apply it and just project this on other people, but just trying to understand the person, more. And as for the Princess of Power, and I knew that you Dorothy, you have that magic photo with the crown every time. And I just wanted to ask you a question. Does it have a story behind that, or you can tell something?
There was some conference in the United States, and I had a meeting with a group of people, some sort of committee before the conference, and there was some email, I don't know, joke or something about a tiara that I don't even remember. I tried to find the email, it's gone. And for some reason, I wore a tiara to that meeting. And then I kind of forgot I had it on. And so that group of people then kind of went from our meeting to, I don't know, drinks or dinner or something. And this other woman on the committee, who was someone I didn't really like very much, at one point looked at me and looked at the tiara and she said, but you're not going to wear that for the whole conference, are you? And I thought, oh, I am now. I am now. because I can. I mean, there's no rule. I mean, you don't deserve or earn a tiara. I mean, it's like earrings or a necklace. You want to put something sparkly on your head, put something sparkly on your head. And I thought, you know what? I would like to put something sparkly on my head. And I encourage others to do the same. So I just got back from TEFL in the UK about a week ago. So I had brought a tiara, and I had brought a few others. And so many people came by our booth and wanted to try them on and take pictures. And then I would say, look, here's our drawing for books. And people are like, yeah, books, drawing. But, oh, can I try on the tiara? And I thought, you know what we need next year at TEFL? It was just, maybe we won't have a drawing for books at all. People know where to find books. We'll have a tiara photo booth. And we'll bring a bunch of tiaras and crowns and maybe some scepters, and you can get your picture taken with a picture frame that's got a hashtag or something in it, and let people have a little fun.
I will, and myself, I'll be looking for the Mary Poppins. I might design my own hat that I'll be wearing for the next conference, and it sounds fair. And
why not? And there's, as a child, you're always sort of you think that there are rules out there, and once you're an adult, you have to do this. And then there's that point where you become an adult and you think, nobody's in charge. Nobody knows anything. Nobody knows any more than I do. We're all making it up as we go along. But if we're all making it up as we go along, why don't we make up something more fun and more enjoyable and more positive? We don't have to make up something competitive and negative. And
Exactly.
when I first started doing sort of high level talks in ESL, I had a co-author who once asked me, and she goes, "Dorothy, where did you come from?" Well, I was born in Berkeley in California, but my family moved to the East Coast as a child. She goes, "No. I mean, where did you come from in ESL?" She goes, "1 year, you were nowhere. Nobody heard of you." She goes, "Next year, you were everywhere. Where did you come from?" And I said, "Well, I know the answer to that. Came from Henry Whittleson, one of the sort of great applied linguistics." She goes, "Explain." I said, "Well, I've been going to TESOL for years, and I thought everybody goes to the big plenary talks because nothing else is scheduled at the same time, and these are the important people." And I said, "And often they're okay talks, but they're not a lot of fun. It's kind of, can we marry research and practice? Yes." And I said, "But if you have everybody together, wouldn't it be great to do comedy? Something like that, that's just kind of entertainment. They can have some meaning, but something entertaining." And I thought, that's a good idea. But if you're not a famous person, no one is going to invite you to do comedy as the opening event at TESOL or TEFL because you're nobody. It's also not amusing to see somebody you've never heard of doing comedy. So I thought the thing to do is to find a very famous person and do it together. And so there was an Oxford University Press event at their booth, and the event was organized by the people from the UK office. And the British have this, it is a class society. So they do this thing of pretending that it's not a class society. So the editor looked for the most famous person, who was Henry, and the least famous person who still had a right to be in the booth, who is me. And she thought, I should introduce them, just show that we're all equal. And she said, "Dorothy, you must meet Henry Whittleson." I thought, yes, I must. So I pitched the idea to him, and he said, "Well, you could make many serious points through comedy." And I said, yes, you could. Would you be willing? And he said, yes. So the next day I went to the organizers. Every TESOL, there's a table of the organizing committee for the next year's conference, because they already know what city it's going to be. And so those people are saying, "Oh, come to our city and do this," and they have some promotional brochures and whatnot. But that's the time. I mean, a year in advance is when they're already planning their speakers. So I went up to them and I said, "Hey, I could get you Henry Whittleson and me doing comedy. Are you interested?" And they said, "Yes, that sounds fantastic." So I emailed Henry and I said, if you're still up for it, we're on. So we wrote our script over the year by email. He lives in Vienna, Austria. I was in the US. So we wrote our script back and forth over the year. We met a couple days in advance in Salt Lake City and practiced it a few times, and then went up and gave what I think was a very funny talk. In the audience was somebody from the TESOL head office who worked with TESOL's missions and whatnot, but she herself didn't have a long ESL background. I mean, she knew the business because she was in the head office doing the work. She knew who Henry Whittleson was, and she knew that he had a wife whose last name was different from his and who was shorter than he was and had dark hair. And that's all she knew. So Henry's wife, I mean, everybody's shorter than Henry. He's like 6'4". His wife is shorter. She does have dark hair, but her name is Barbara Seidle Hofer. It has nothing to do with me. Barbara didn't come that year because I think she had health issues or she was doing something else. And so she's looking at Henry on stage and she has no idea who I am. And she thought, who is this woman next to Henry? Oh, it's probably his wife. whoa, she's very funny. She must be very, very good. So after that talk, she asked if I would write a column in TESOL's new monthly magazine. And I said, well, sure, I would be delighted to write a column in TESOL's new monthly magazine. That's the kind of thing I would love to do. And also there was a China standards project. Would I be interested in that? And we talked about my more academic background. I later learned from her, it was something like 6 or 9 months later that she realized that I had no connection to Henry whatsoever. But by then it was too late. I was already writing the column and doing the things, and the columns were good and people were happy, and I was doing what I was doing. I think you still have to bring the quality. If I'd stood up with Henry and we had not been funny, then it would have gone nowhere. But that's what I said, that's where I came from. Somebody gave me a chance. Somebody graciously agreed to share the spotlight with me and let me prove myself. So I think there's also a lesson there too to people who are famous, that you should, when you have power and you have a platform and you have opportunity, it is nice to share that and let the next person come on up. And I think these days with social media, that's a lot easier, that you can, even if you are quote unquote a no-name person, you can meet professionals and contribute and prove your worth and show what you have. And it's easier to get accepted than it was in the old days, when it depended more on your having enough money and going to the right universities and knowing the right people. There's more motion these days, I think.
I'll tell you something, Dorothy, you got me inspired into sharing my story into this, the field of ELT, because I started teaching in 2009. And, I was just like the student, very organized, and I liked going to the British Council in Amethyst. And then afterwards, there were like the workshops at the American Embassy, where I met you once. And I attended your first workshop at the US Embassy, and I had really the pleasure of really being inspired by you at that time. And I had that question related to energy. I still remember my question at that time. But going back to that phase, I can recognize now that I had different phases in my career that started in 2009. And I esteem that I was very lucky, to have been following ever since, not tracks, and steps of other people, but I started really listening to other people's stories and trying to develop my own track, according to their stories and being inspired. So my career pre-COVID is different from post-COVID, and even pre-CELTA, post-CELTA. The person that inspired me the most, apart from all the speakers, including yourself, Dorothy, is Laura Woodward. And Laura was my CELTA, yes, she was my CELTA tutor and assessor. And I owe Laura a lot, because she was like kind of person who is really very welcoming to my positive energy, my crazy ELT, ideas. I remember a TP, once Laura was my assessor, and she allowed me even to do a speed dating in my CELTA. And I had all the candidates going through this, and even, dancing with music in the background. Laura, she's very dear to my heart. And she, I learned how to be more of myself. Starting from that moment, the shy girl, disappeared ever since. And
yet, I mean, I've done classroom observations. I remember once watching a very traditional, quiet male teacher who had these squeaky leather shoes, and he'd sort of walk around the classroom, squeak, squeak, goes the shoes. And he was very, one person spoke at a time, and there was not a lot of laughter. And his students loved him. And the next person would come in all bright and energetic and young, and they would love her. I think what students, what people respond to, because students are people, is they respond to somebody being authentic. So this man with his quiet demeanor, his squeaky shoes, was authentically himself. He wasn't pretending to be somebody else. He wasn't faking it. And he passionately loved English, particularly vocabulary. And people felt his love of vocabulary, and they went with him down, the lexical route that he took them on. So if you can be yourself, what they say, be yourself, everybody else is already taken.
Yes.
That students respond to authenticity. And yes, you should have, hopefully you would have a CELTA examiner who's not looking at a template to see how close you come to a model, but is looking at, do you project concern for your students? Do you have a way of monitoring their progress? Do you have a way of checking in with them? Are you presenting material in a comprehensible way? But if you're hitting those broad goals, no, it doesn't matter if you're walking around the classroom with your squeaky shoes, or if you have a speed dating with dancing in the background.
Yes, I do find that.
I can't remember if it's still on my Facebook page or not, because Facebook changes every 5 months. But for a while, Facebook had let you put like your saying or your motto or your something on your page, and I chose, which I still think would be my tagline if I could choose one. There are many paths up the mountain. Right? There isn't only one way.
Exactly.
We're all trying to get to the same place, but how you get there,
how we do it,
really doesn't matter. And just as different students are going to get there differently, so are different teachers. And that's fine.
Exactly. Being authentic is really a rule of thumb. If your students, they will be feeling the real authentic self, they will be really receptive of everything you're trying to convey to them. And but as you said, like everyone has his own style, but the most important thing is that their learning objectives, they can be reached, as long as you do that, you're allowed to do everything decent in class,
I was very lucky right after I did my MA. So I did my student teaching internship in the same place that I wound up working for a year after I graduated, which is at the American Language Center in Rabat in Morocco. Still, 20 years later, hands down, that was the best system I have ever seen for teaching. He had a lot of teachers. He had people with MAs, a couple PhDs. He also had the kind of person who comes through for a year on their way to Spain, who likes language and people, but is maybe not going to wind up a teacher. So there were the highly professional teachers. There were more the well-meaning but untrained people. And you have a student population that every term is going to take an exam and move on to the next term, and they have their goals. So the system he devised, every class at every level, every lesson of every week was mapped out. And there was a complete lesson plan that you could follow exactly. So if you were somebody who mostly knew English, you could come in with this lesson plan, follow it, and your class would be fine. All the extra workshops and songs and other things that went with that lesson that teachers had created would be put in that folder as well. But on top of that, he would say, as long as you cover this grammar and this vocabulary and this language, you can do whatever you want. If you'd like to put on a play, go for it. As long as you fit into the lesson plan. Because at the end, they still have to take the same exam. So you could follow the textbook page by page and do just those supplementary worksheets that were in the folder, and you were safe. If you felt, oh, I know a better way to do the present perfect, you were completely free to do that. And having that security and the freedom together, I think did a lot toward making me the teacher that I am today. And, in 1 year, occasionally there are going to be days when you just don't have any great ideas. There are days in your year when you don't have any wonderful ideas, and you look at the textbook page and it's fine, and you've got nothing more creative, or maybe you're tired. Maybe you were out the night before with friends or talking to your family on the phone and you got very little sleep. To know that there's a lesson plan that will be fine and will cover the material already done for you was tremendous. So having that sort of safe base that had been tested enough and was good enough, but still a director who absolutely believed you could be as free as you wanted to do whatever you want in class, as long as you covered the material. That was, I will, God willing, never be a language school director. That's not amongst my talents. I'm not an organizational person. I'm not a supervising kind of person. But if anyone listening to this is a director, I would say set up a system where everybody's lesson plan is safe, but they still have the creativity to do stuff. And then you have, both the solid background that students need. They have to learn what they've paid to learn. But teachers can be their authentic selves. And there were people experimenting with community language learning and passing the tape recorder, and there's TPR going on here, and people playing music in class, and other people doing more traditional lessons, and it all worked.
I remember you got me like into an idea. I still remember one of my interviews. It was with a very famous language center here, and I was scared to announce this. I told her my class is really, she asked me the question, what kind of class do you have? Like, how does it sound like? I told her my class can be the loudest class. You just pass over the corridor. You will first, my door is always open so that everybody's welcome. And then she told me, I like the idea of having the loudest class, not in the bad sense, but in a good way. Like students, they really talk, they move, they have to move. I have my stirrers and settlers, and they never get bored. And I was lucky enough, following that interview, to have, managers and supervisors. They really allowed me to be more of myself. Even though the textbook is still the roadmap, but now hopefully I have much more freedom to use AI integrated, but still I can borrow a few things from the textbook, with the copyright, of course, but still I have developed like something, created like an AI tutor, which helps like my students improve their writing skills. And I'm using ChatGPT, the voice assistant, for improving their speaking skills, especially those shy students. And it makes a difference this year. Really, my manager allowed me to do this, and I thank him so much. He's really trusting me for this.
I mean, a textbook can still, that's why I tell people their textbook selection is very important, because that is kind of going to be your curriculum. So if you don't agree on where the past tense is taught, then don't buy into that system, because it is going to exert some power over your life. But the exercises that are there should be there as support and not as a rule. And if you find a different way to do the same thing, that's great.
Exactly. So having the syllabus, of course, clear, that's one of the things that I really start with. And integrating AI has changed a lot of things this year. And I've worked more into, I've started teaching digital storytelling. And first it was, basic, and then I moved on to podcasting, teaching my students how to tell their stories through their podcasts. And then now into AI, and I'm still really experimenting with this. They've been writing to their own script, creating, micro videos, and then really editing this into a short AI movie. And still, I believe, I assume that I have more work to do still, but it's good and it's amazing and I'm enjoying it.
Well, when I talk to teachers who are, well, rightfully so, a little panicked about what does AI mean for English teacher jobs, and I said, well, I think we are going to lose those students who don't really need to learn another language or don't need to learn this language. But for those students who still need to or want to learn a language, how we teach it or what we teach them to do with it might be different, but people are still using language, right? You're sitting across from me using English in your job. That's not going away. We still talk to people and read stories and create art. And so it doesn't matter how much AI changes that, we do still need language. What we teach them to use language for, I think, will change and is changing. And we have to teach some different skills. We have to teach fact checking now, even in a language class. ChatGPT writes you 3 paragraphs and there's some information in it. You have to know how to verify the information to make sure it hasn't hallucinated something.
Yes, exactly.
So checking things, and not just that you have created yourself, but as you encounter texts on the web and that other people have given you, increasingly we're going to have to be fact checking everything because we don't know where it's come from. So that's a language source and a research source and a learning source. skill that students are going to need to know how to do.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I went into, experimenting with an activity into analyzing, the NLP and NLP, because, I'm taking the ICF coaching and the NLP coaching. And I've even thought about the idea of trying to analyze the stylistic, response of ChatGPT, because they have a kind of a pattern.
Yeah.
If you just generate anything from ChatGPT, you will notice certain recurrent, repetitive sentences. You delve into.
You can tell when English is correct, but it hasn't come from a human, which is neither good nor bad. It's just a thing. I know somebody in Japan who teaches translation, and I listened to an interview with her once where somebody was saying, "Oh, what do you do with translation students to keep them from using translation software?" And she said, keep them from using it. I require them to use it because they have to understand how translation software works. And you need to know how to write in your native language so that it will be translated correctly, right? If you're ever tasked with creating your institution's website in Arabic, knowing that there's going to be a button that someone's going to hit that will translate it into English, German, Spanish, Portuguese, and Chinese, how do you write your language so that it will come out mostly correctly? So that's a skill we didn't have to teach in language class 10 years ago, but it's something we have to think about now. And if you write your own original English and DeepL or ChatGPT or Google Translate creates a translation, how is yours the same? How is it different? Which is better? And parts of yours are better because they're human. Parts of theirs might be better because they're more accurate. And how do you use those tools? Yeah. So there are definitely different skills. But I mean, when if I have to quickly check a website in another language to see, do I need a visa for this country, or is airport customs open at 6:30 a.m.? I'm not going to learn Arabic for 3 years in order to read that web page. I'm going to hit a button. It's going to be automatically translated. I'm good to go. So for those people, if you have 2 weeks of your honeymoon in Canada, you don't actually have to learn English to do that. You can go with your phone and body language and a good spirit, and you'll be fine. So we are going to lose those people as language students. But I mean, I'm still studying foreign languages. I do my 5 to 7 minutes of Duolingo Spanish every day, and I don't have to learn Spanish. I'm not moving to Spain. I don't have a Spanish boyfriend. When I go to Mexico, people there still speak better English than I speak Spanish. They'll speak Spanish to me if I ask them to. And I say, no, let me try. Let me do. I want to order my food. I'm learning Spanish because I want to, because that's human, and Spanish is beautiful, and I want to learn it. So people are not going to stop communicating, and they're not going to stop learning second languages. So in that sense, our teaching jobs are not going away. But are they changing? Absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't go off to Mexico without my phone and Google Translate in case I get into trouble and I need one word, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
I wish I could learn Spanish. I'm someone who's really fond of languages. I learned Indian simply because I was doing yoga, and I wanted to understand the Sanskrit, and whatever they just say or write, just for the sake of knowledge. 2 years, and now I still remember a few words. I hope my teacher's not watching me now. Just few words. Merenam Kahe. Just a second, please.
Remember,
my Indian. Merenam Yousra Hai, so my name is Yousra. That's it. That's all I can remember.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I once I was getting closer to the culture, I wanted to get the full experience, all of it. Including food, including clothes, the language, everything including that. And I believe Spanish, because I always wanted to learn how to play guitar. And still till now, that might be my next step, my next skill to learn. And I did flamenco for 2 years because I
Oh,
like
really?
the
Oh,
energy.
okay.
Yes, yes.
You got the sound in your ears then,
Yeah,
yeah.
the hairstyle and the clothes and that energy, and I was looking for those shoes, but couldn't find any in Tunisia. So I hope that will be in mind when I travel to Spain. But
Yeah,
I still remember the pasada, that energy of the dancers doing that. I'm passionate about life, and I can't wait like for the next experience. What is it going
yeah,
to be? I have no idea until now.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I think it's going to be maybe in Japan because I noticed that I'm getting very close to the culture. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Having more Japanese friends, and I've been into eating more sushi, but not necessarily like making me this go more into the culture.
Yeah.
But the culture, the energy of that, I call it a planet. So Japan is not a
Mm.
country for me.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
just a different planet with different people.
yeah.
They're,
But a
just like
wonderful one. Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
wonderful country, and I hope it's on my bucket list. So if ever I'll be traveling, so I'll be considering Japan on my list. And here goes the Ikigai and the Kaizen, all the words that have been
Right,
borrowed from
right.
Japanese.
Well, and for your profession, for English language teaching, Japan is a center. I mean, there are great teachers there and great programs and
It's a,
conferences with great vitality. I mean, it's not at all a strange place for someone like you to go. I mean, you'll find your professional home there,
I did.
on a short visit.
Actually, yeah. Actually, my proposal was accepted for a conference in May, the 28th of May. It's the Asian
Ah,
conference, this one about podcasting and the human aspect, the synthetic
ah,
podcasts and yes,
oh,
and
there you
Ikigai.
go.
It was
There you
accepted.
go. There you
I
go.
have one already on the go. So many, good wishes to everybody. And I'm really very happy I'm making that virtual tour now. And
Mm.
my next maybe milestone or maybe objective will be to make it to an IATEFL in-person conference maybe next year.
Well, next year is in Edinburgh, Scotland.
I saw that.
Either way, not a
Yes.
bad location.
I'll just do my best. I couldn't make it for the TESOL convention, so I will do my best for either one of them. And
Yeah,
so I'll see what I can do. So joining the IATEFL first, and
yeah,
then getting more into that experience and attending a real conference
yeah.
because
IATEFL is great, but also JOLT in Japan is great
it
in
is it
sort of
is.
November-ish. So you've already missed the call for proposals for this year, but it'll come around again next year, February or so. And that's a very, I don't know, intense focus conference with great energy and great people and really good
Yeah.
presentations and yeah. So I would recommend JOLT or IATEFL. I
I
would
will.
recommend JOLT and IATEFL.
I will, especially if it will allow me to travel and get the best of the two worlds,
Yeah,
traveling and presenting. So I'll
yeah.
keep it, on my list for next year. So
And you can check the calendars, but often people who are coming from far away, just because it does take a lot of time and money to get over to that area of the world if
yeah,
you live somewhere
yes,
else.
yes,
But
yes.
traditionally, Korea TESOL, Co-TESOL, and JOLT have been next to each other. So people would come and do Korea and then Japan, or Japan and then Korea. So
I'll tell you a secret, if ever I have, an objective and it seems really huge to me, I start
mhm,
preparing for it ahead of time, even if it takes me, years.
mhm,
Like if I can't afford a conference, I might
mhm.
go for saving and I might go for a scholarship. And
Yeah,
then I will do whatever it takes to be there. So it's like I'm that kind of goal-oriented person.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
sometimes, I just give up on certain, objectives because, I can't make it everywhere, but
No,
still,
but
virtually speaking, I'm doing my best,
right. Well, and you look at kind of the rise of Africa TESOL, and there's
yes,
exciting things going on in your area of the world too. So
I do. I have, many opportunities and many friends along
yeah,
the way, many friends because, I just forget about the aspect, of being very formal and, very, very, I'm getting things into much more friendly way,
yeah.
if the
Remember,
human
there
aspect,
there there are no rules. There is no
yeah,
organization. It's just us. It's
us,
just people making it up
Humans.
as we go along. And I
Exactly.
think most people would like to be friendly and non-competitive and supportive, and then everybody feels better. So if
They're
that's what
both.
you put out, that's what you'll attract.
Yes, yes, they're both actually. I've been exposed, just like in every profession, I've been exposed to very supportive people,
Yeah.
just supportive to the extent, like, for example, Gabriel Gabo, he doesn't even know me.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
have invited him to the podcast, and he said yes, and he was supportive. Like he adjusted his schedule to mine. It was,
Yeah.
New Year's Eve in 2023, and, and
Wow.
and how supportive he can be as a person. So that's
Yeah.
a very good example of how people can be
Yes.
supportive. And then there are, of course, other examples, but just because you're different, because I was different in their own sense,
Hmm.
energies didn't match. So it's okay. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to impose. Yeah.
It's it's a big world. There's room for many
For
different
everybody.
kinds of people.
Exactly, exactly. I don't want to take much of your time, Dorothy, but just the last question for today, and
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
you go
Okay.
in enjoying your life experience. The last question is like, if ever you be living in a world where there is no money, like the social constraints that exist right now, how
Mhm.
would your life look like? Like,
I
feel free
already,
to talk about.
I already have no money, so yeah,
Same.
no change, no change. But I think what people use as sort of a transactional currency is sort of goodwill or helpfulness or
Yes.
kindness, and you think, what do you have to offer? And some people are hard workers, some people are loyal friends. I would say what I have to offer is that I'm entertaining, that I can make people laugh. I mean, music is also a form of entertainment, hopefully not humorous, but I mean, it's a form of entertainment. So I would be the joke teller and the dancer and the musician and the storyteller, and that would be what I contribute, and then other people contribute what they contribute. Money should just
It's
be our,
necessary.
our our shortcut, our way of taking all those different things and putting them into a common language. But if we had to remove that, I think humans giving what they have and receiving what they need, I don't think that would change. I think people would still give of their talents and take what they need, and hopefully it would all still work.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. I really enjoyed the conversation with you.
Yeah,
I
me
don't know if you
too.
have any questions to me, but really, I'm really very, very, very happy. And I can't really express what I'm feeling right now, but it's like I hope that I can be, someone who is um, I can't even find the words, I hope that I can be inspiring people just like 0.1%.
Yeah,
And
you're already part of the conversation. You have a podcast, you interact with people, you talk to people, you bring people to you,
yes,
you give people opportunities, you give them a platform. I mean, you're already
thank you.
there.
And, and, and,
So,
and thank you so much. And I hope to see you again.
yeah,
Last time, like, I didn't know you as much as I know you now, but I hope next time either here in Tunisia or abroad. And I
yeah,
hope that we can work together in any possible way. I'm for
that would be great. That
it.
would be great. Wonderful. Thank you for
Thanks
having
so
me.
much. Thank you so much. And have a wonderful day. Take care, Dorothy.
All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you.